Welcome to another edition of the Black Gold Texas Tea Show, where we celebrate culture, positivity, and the power of shedding light on facts that may only be in the shadows. All of this to uplift, empower, promote, and influence the culture and positivity that we celebrate. So today, we honor International Women's Month. It's a time to recognize the strength, resilience, and contributions of women across the world. These are special women, for they are trailblazers in history to everyday heroes that are shaping our future. These women continue to inspire, uplift, and lead the way. And in this special episode, we'll share powerful stories, highlight incredible achievements, and dive into what it truly means to empower one another. So sit back, get inspired, and let's celebrate the women who make history every day. If you're like me, you might be wondering, where did this come from? Where did the idea of celebrating women become a thing? Well, I had to do a little digging. And when I did, I discovered that March became Women's History Month in the United States because it was chosen to focus on International Women's Month or International Women's Day, which is March the 8th. The first Women's History Week was celebrated in 1978 in Santa Rosa, California. And after that, in 1987, Congress passed a law that made March the Women's History Month. Little tidbit, just a little bit of a tidbit there. And so the theme for the Women's Month of March in the year of 2025 is moving forward together, women educating and inspiring generations. As an empowered woman myself, I want to celebrate, I want to educate and inspire while moving toward the future together. So I pulled just a few names and also accomplishments of some of the phenomenal women that I'd like to share with you. Starting with those we hear about often, and there may be some that you may not have heard of before. And I get that. That's why I'm here. So one of the first ones that I want to talk about that you already know, I won't go into great detail because you've already heard of, Harriet Tubman. She was an abolitionist and a political activist who led enslaved people to freedom through the Underground Railroad. Then there was Sojourner Truth. She was also an advocate for abolition and women's rights, and she was most known for her speech in 1851 at the Women's Convention in Akron, Ohio, entitled "Ain't I a Woman?" If you're not familiar with that particular speech or poem, it's worth your investigating. Then there's Madam C.J. Walker, who y'all know I think I'm some distant niece, daughter, granddaughter, great grand, what have you, because she was the first self-made African-American female millionaire, and she was pioneering in hair care and entrepreneurship. Who can forget Miss Rosa Parks, civil rights activist known for refusing to give up her seat? And it also sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. Maya Angelou, poet, author, and activist whose work uplifted African American culture and social justice movements. She was a very special lady. Poetry forever and ever. Phenomenally phenomenal woman. I'm probably giving you some extra, but that's another poem that you might want to check out. Then there's a woman by the name of Wangari Maathai. She's a Kenyan environmental activist and the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in sustainable development. That's one that you might not have heard of before, and she might also be worth your investigation. Coretta Scott King, of course, is the civil rights leader and wife of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who fought beside him for racial justice and women's rights. Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to the U.S. Congress, and she was also the first woman to seek a Democratic presidential nomination. I wonder, have you heard about Frida Kahlo? She's a Mexican artist known for her powerful self portraits and activism for women's rights. And I'll bet every time you get ready to take a trip, you think about Amelia Earhart, who was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, breaking barriers for women in aviation. These are just a few, and most of them have all gone on. But there are also some modern women who inspire us every day. Women like Michelle Obama, former First Lady. Also, she's an attorney and an advocate for education, health, and women's empowerment. Oprah Winfrey, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Well, she's definitely a media mogul, but also a philanthropist. And she used her platform in entertainment to champion education and self empowerment. One that you might not have heard a lot about, but she was certainly in the news in her timing. She's still here, I believe. I'm not sure. Malala Yousafzai. I'm sorry. Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai. She's the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner, and she did win that Peace Prize for how she advocated for education for girls after surviving being attacked by the Taliban. Now, one of my favorites, just because I'm a sports fanatic, is Serena Williams. Serena, of course, is one part of that dynamic Williams duo in the tennis world. They're legendary tennis champions, and she's certainly even more legendary than her sister because of her victories. But she's also an advocate for women's rights, health, and empowerment. Then there's Tarana Burke, who recently became the founder of the Me Too movement, advocating against sexual harassment and assault. There's also, if you live in the South, I don't know how you could miss Miss Stacey Abrams, who is a politician and activist focusing on voting rights and democracy reform. Now, if you're into entertainment, I know that we're talking a whole lot about what Kendrick Lamar did at the Super Bowl. But don't you forget about Beyonce, global music icon, entrepreneur, and philanthropist who promotes Black culture, feminism, and empowerment. Her performance on Christmas Day 2024 at the NFL halftime show was as impactful and thought-provoking as Kendrick Lamar. So if you missed that, it is worth you going back to look at how she wove very interesting, I'll say, deep metaphors into her performance. Things that you wouldn't see just on surface, but she made powerful statements in that performance as well. Then we have, of course, Kamala Harris, who was the first female vice president in the United States, and she was also the first African and South Asian descent in that particular role. And then if you are one who enjoys movies, you better remember Ava DuVernay, that filmmaker and activist who uses her platform in cinema to highlight social justice issues, especially those regarding race and gender. There's so many. And of course, the amount of time that we have together, I can't give them all, but I do want to give you just a few more. These women are specific to the African American culture, and they've certainly made an impact. I'm talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first Black woman to serve as a U.S. Supreme Court justice and made history in our legal system. Then you have, in this business of social media, Tabitha Brown, who is a social media influencer. She's also an actress and a vegan food advocate who's inspired millions with her positive and faith-based messages. Some that you probably wouldn't even think of forgetting: Miss Simone Biles, Olympic gymnast, and the most decorated gymnast in history. She advocated and continues to advocate for mental health awareness. There was lots to be said about the fact that she decided to take time for her own mental health, where others felt that they had to perform regardless of their own feelings, regardless of their own challenges, regardless of how they were feeling personally. And because Simone chose to reach out, she chose to stand for her own mental health. It empowered others to do the same. Y'all, there's so many others. I just don't know where to stop. But I will give you this last one just because she's a favorite of mine, and that's Shonda Rhimes, creator of Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and Bridgerton. And she used her platform in the television industry to promote diverse storytelling. If you haven't seen Bridgerton, that's definitely one that promotes diversity across the world. Like I said before, there's so many others. The thing that I also want us to consider are the facts that these women have either in the past broken, and many of them are still breaking barriers in government, in business, in entertainment, in sports, in activism, and in so many other ways. So as we pause to acknowledge them and their accomplishments, remember it's International Women's Month. Think of all the cultures that surround you on a daily basis. Take some time to find out even more. There's plenty out there to learn. And then even look right there in your own local community. There are women that you can celebrate right in your own backyard, whether it's Miss Thomas at your church, who's taking her time to help children grow, to share information with them. There may be others, but I am sure there are women who are around you every day that are helping your community be better because of the things that they do. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my own mom. God bless her. In her day, my mom, I believe, was ahead of her time. And I think she and some of her girlfriends, who in many ways represented the movie The Help before it was a movie, for all of them were domestic workers, or the majority of them were. But they used to get together on Wednesday nights and just play cards and put up a nice little table of hors d'oeuvres for themselves to treat themselves to the same treatment that they did for those who employed them, right? And what was amazing to me is that these women just got together initially to play cards and just have some girlfriend fun. And they decided, by the way they were coming together and the monies that they were spending, that they should collectively take something back to the community. It started with creating baskets for families in the community that were in need. It went on to become, there was one of them that could make dresses for Barbie dolls out of dollar bills. So they took this woman and gave her the money, and she made these dresses, beautiful dresses, out of various denominations of dollar bills. And then they held a raffle, all to give scholarships, to give money to those in the community that needed them. All of this to make our communities better. So hats off to the sophisticates of Amarillo, Texas. All of them have gone on to heaven, but they made an impact on those of us who were around them and saw them in Amarillo, Texas, as well as those who benefited from them giving back at that time. There are some more women today right there around you. So in this month of March, take a moment to celebrate women who are around you and thank them for the contributions that they continue to make every day. Y'all, this is another one of those that I get really excited about, and I hope that you have enjoyed what I've shared. Remember, we're more alike than we are different. And also remember that this is the first day of the rest of your life. Let the rest of your life be the best of your life. Learn more, share more, do more, be more. This is your chance to be all you can be. Until next time, God bless.